A dojo is variously described as a training hall, and I believe the literal translation is place for finding the way. It's an important part of anyone's training, irrespective of style. The dojo, the dojang, the kun, the gym is way more than just a pile of bricks and wood. It can be the central nervous system for an entire style and approach. So why oh why did I just close mine? Kia ora, I'm Tuari Dawson and you're listening to the Invisible Sensei podcast. So before I get into rationales and the explanation and the thought behind closing the dojo, I want to start by saying thank you to all those wonderful people, men and women around the world, I mean literally around the world, who took time to contact me personally via direct message or on my Facebook and so on and so forth, the Invisible Sensei podcast Facebook, even on Instagram, to show messages or give messages of support on the closure of my dojo last week. And it really was amazing. It was amazing to me that people who, quite a few have never actually met me, but have maybe listened to a podcast or two or seen some of the stuff I've put online, took time out of their busy lives to drop me a line. So I just want to say thank you. It meant so much, and I really appreciate your positive energy. So, with that being said, I guess I want to get into a little bit of a indulgent conversation with you, just you and me, now that we're sitting here having coffee together, about what led up to it, what it was really about, and why I think it was actually a really positive step. When I first got into martial arts, just like everyone else, I suppose there was a part of me that was attracted to the notion of having a dojo and being able to teach other people. And as a young man who felt kind of powerless in the situation and in the community and in the way that I was growing up at certain times, the idea of having people listen to me when I felt deeply unlistened to as a kid was really attractive to me, I don't doubt. Over and above that was the actual technique. I loved the aesthetics of martial arts. I loved the judo gi. I loved the idea of putting a belt on. I loved the mats. I loved the smell of the straw of the mats and all those sorts of things, which give you an idea. If I'm talking about the smell of straw and mats, tells you how long ago I'm talking. And I think for me, it became about the practice. And it's not to say that I was an egotistical, oh my God, if you knew me back then, and if you know me at all, of course, there's a fairly large ego that requires regular polishing. And I wanted the black belt. You know, I was, just like all of us, I suppose, I was kind of in the frame of mind that thought that if I became a black belt, one, people would listen to me and I'd have all this incredible skill and ability that kind of went with it. Because, as you know, and I know, being a black belt is nigh unto being a superhero. Anyway, the closure of my dojo really is something that I've been pondering for a while. And yes, it is sad. And to any of my students that are listening, I just want to say thank you. And this is not a reflection of you. I guess it's a reflection of the journey that I've always wanted to take. When I first started up the dojo that I had in 2007, it really wasn't my idea. Or I was on board. I just had never considered the idea of having a dojo or having people come and train. For me, the focus of my martial arts training was my training with other people and trying to learn and glean as much as I possibly could. And because I lived a fairly itinerant lifestyle, that meant that I traveled a great deal. I lived in lots of different countries. I trained with lots of different people. And my base style is Okinawan Goju-ryu and always will be. That is the absolute ground on which I stand when it comes to training. Also Jiu-Jitsu and Kobudo. And there's some other disciplines in there which, I won't bore you with, but suffice to say, it was really all about trying to get better at those things in practice and find people who wanted to practice those things. My having a dojo kind of went a little bit against the grain because I don't know if it's selfish, but I was very much focused on what I wanted to do in terms of my training as opposed to what I wanted to teach. And, I'd taught over the years. I'd taught quite a few times. I'd actually had long-term teaching positions in other people's dojo and other people's organizations and so on, which was really cool. And from time to time, people would send me students that they wanted to learn a particular kata or skill or weapon or whatever it was. And I was always really delighted to have that opportunity, but I never really wanted to be a teacher on an ongoing basis. And I really was responding to some people very, very close to me who were really keen. And I kind of got swept up in that. Not in a bad way. I really enjoyed it and I was 100% into it. But the idea at the time, I remember having a conversation with a couple of my initial students saying, my idea would be to produce some yudansha that would then start teaching. Not to spread my Invisible Sensei podcast style across the world and to make myself the grandmaster. Just not interested in those sorts of things. If you've listened to the podcast at all, I'm not great on colonization of people, of cultures, of minds, of hearts. I think there's plenty of people that are good at that, and then we see the results of that all over the world for the last, 1,000 years. So I'm not into that. But I wanted to see what it was like to help to create a study and a methodology and a way of approaching martial arts that was kind of from the ground up. And then to create people who would not be my minions or be some kind of outcropping of me, but fully functional and hopefully on a journey of their own. That's what I hoped. And I was very lucky. I have been very lucky that I have a number of yudansha that have stayed with me and for the most part reached Shodan. There's a couple that have stayed on to higher grades, but usually I think if you're listening to this, you know that black belt is usually where people kind of set their benchmark, and once they kind of get that, the impetus to continue kind of, it doesn't fall by the wayside, but I think that having reached what they feel is a benchmark, life takes over and there are just other priorities and people just fall away or they move on or they go to another style, and I'm okay with that. That is what it is. I made peace with that a long time ago. And so for the last few years, I have been teaching and I've been really enjoying it. I really enjoy my students. I'm going to say that a few times because this is not a reflection of them, but I don't really enjoy teaching. In the sense that not as an ongoing activity. I think also too when you're teaching beginners, which is, without any beginners, without beginners, there's no seniors, there's no advanced people, and I get that. But I found for me that I was really practicing a tiny amount of karate, in the sense that I was continually going back to the beginning, back to the beginning, and back to the beginning. And it was meaning that whilst I was really happy to do that, I was also neglecting the opportunity to train with people and to, I guess, extend my own ability, or at least solidify what I wanted to keep. And yeah, it became this kind of thing where in the last probably 5 or 6 months, I started to become something which I didn't like. I started to become the sensei who walks around and says, do push-ups. There's a few times when I didn't do any myself, and usually I did. Usually I would. Usually if I said, I do 20 push-ups, I get everyone up and then I do 20. But in the last wee while, I just really was kind of, I guess, burnt out from teaching. And I just felt as though I wasn't able to devote the energy to it that I really wanted. And also too, there's a whole lot of stuff that have happened in my life on a personal level, not bad things, but just a combination of factors, as I said before, work and life and family and, all those kinds of things, starting a new job. There's just so many things that kind of take precedence, as they have to. And time became an issue, and I was kind of like trying to push through but getting burnt out at the same time. And I just got to a point where the idea originally of creating a crop of instructors kind of seemed like it was a long way away. In the sense that when I started the dojo, I had maybe 5 or 6 yudancha who were with me. But again, through no fault of mine and no fault of theirs, life got in the way and they needed to focus on their lives, which is completely understandable. I'm completely support. And for me, I think when I put the Facebook post out, one thing I put in is that, I will always train. Martial arts is a lifestyle to me. Martial arts is a place that I go to in my mind and in my body to practice skills that help me gain a better understanding of my own life, how I walk, how I move, how I think. I found it to be a really wonderful way of supporting my mental health, which sometimes is not that great. And I always seem to emerge from the dojo or the gym or from a training session, a really good training session, a little cleaner, a little clearer, a little more focused, and I really appreciate that. I feel kind of like one of those, I feel a little bit like a fake, in the sense that the decision to close the dojo, yes, whilst was sad, I'm kind of at peace with. I don't see it as a failure on my students' part. Certainly they weren't, by no means were they failures. They were great people, and I'm going to retain a couple. I want to retain a small group of people that I will figure out at some point. But the idea of continually teaching kind of, it's not where my head or my heart or my training is at. And I'm really grateful that people want to come and send their children or come and train with me and give the energy and time and sweat to train at the dojo. And likewise, I've got some fantastic colleagues in there as well who are very high-ranking and very accomplished martial artists in their own right. But I just got to a point and I had to make a decision. And one of the things that I've done in the last few years, well, probably in the last 7 or 8 years, is I've started to create seminars. And the idea of creating seminars was really so I could steal as much from other people and be inspired by other people's practice as much as possible. And that's what I'm keen for, to be totally honest. I'm looking for colleagues. I'm looking for people that are walking a path and maybe they don't do what I do, or maybe they don't do it the way that I do it. And I want to have good training sessions, and I want to have robust discussions, and I want to go deeper. And will there be someone carrying on the way that I do karate and weapons and so on and so forth when I shuffle off this mortal coil? I don't know. People talk a lot about legacy. In the last few years, I've thought, I certainly understand people wanting to leave something behind. And I hope that what I leave behind is that I have done a little good and done a little bad and helped people when I've been able to, and hopefully made decent decisions, but certainly a lot of mistakes. But I want to be inspired. I want to have the kind of opportunity to train for the sake of training. The idea of being some kind of, what did someone call me once? Someone called me, some guy who didn't do martial arts, and they were kind of joking, thinking, "Oh, bro, are you a bit of a fight master?" And I always thought that was a funny term, a fight master. But yeah, no, I don't want to be a fight master, but I do want to continue doing this thing that I really enjoy and that I love and that has meant so much to me and given me so many opportunities. I'm keeping the dojo, and I'm putting the call out to people that I want to train with. If you're coming this way to New Zealand, or if you're in New Zealand and you're down in Wellington and you want somewhere to train, holler at your Invisible Sensei podcast host, and I'd love to train with you. If you're coming to New Zealand and you want to do a bit of training, or you just want to catch up, have a coffee and talk all things martial arts and life and everything related, hey, holler. If you're looking for someone to do a seminar, what a plug, what a shameless plug, I'm in. If you're looking to have one, I'm in as well. For me, I want to take back and I want to be excited about what I do. And I think whilst I loved having what we would term a club, a martial arts club, a dojo, all of the people that are involved are still my friends. All of the people that have come through the doors are now part of my journey, and I hope to a small degree I am part of theirs. But there's a new journey to be had, and it excites me, and it gets me out of bed early in the morning to sit in the cold in front of a microphone and tell you this. There is more than we know. The journey doesn't stop. And at the moment I'm working on a little thing that you might be able to purchase for a kind of a merch thing, I guess. It's called the Invisible Sensei Codex. And I'll talk more about it. Yeah, that is a shameless plug. But what I'm finding is I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know what's going to happen when I go to the dojo. I don't know what's going to happen when I put my gear on this morning. Is my knee going to hurt? Yes. Is my hip going to hurt? Yes. Is my back going to hurt? Yes. But I like the not knowing, and I like feeling like I'm in the place of discovery. I love the fact that I am asking people who are keen. If you're keen, I'd love to do some online stuff. I'd love to have some conversations and do some online training. The closure of the dojo is a physical place, and as some people have very kindly pointed out to me, the dojo is wherever you are. And sometimes I've forgotten that. The dojo is not about my influence over other people. The dojo is about my influence over myself. And I want to be excited and passionate and moved and ready to go and ask questions that have no answers. And I want, from now till when I go to that big dojo in the sky, to be as much fun, as much training. I want to be mentally stimulated. I want to train hard. I want to find out things. I want to laugh with good people. I want to drink some good coffee, do some good training, and realize that this thing we do, it has no end. And it's not about being in the dojo. It's about taking the dojo everywhere we go.